anything. And I think we have Voula Giouli talking to us from the Institute for Language and Speech Processing in Greece. And I would say I will disappear and leave the floor virtually to her. Yeah, hit the play button now.
Hello, my name is Voula Giouli and I'm a research associate at the Institute for Language and Speech Processing of the Research Center Retina in Athens, Greece. My talk today is about annotating right verb constructions in a corpus of modern Greek and within a multilingual setting, part of the Perceive initiative. So, I will firstly present the scope and aims of our work, by also briefly setting the general framework within which corpus annotation was performed. Prior to presenting our work, the definition of light verb constructions, or LVCs for short, in our approach, is in order, and I will briefly go over some previous work, focusing on modern Greek. I will then present the corpus itself, the methodology adopted for annotation, focusing on the challenges encountered, as well as specific phenomena, and the outcome of our work. I will sum up by also giving an account of our insights for future research. Our work is primarily intended to serve applications in the field of natural language processing, or NLP for short, where LVCs are generally treated under the umbrella term of multi-word expressions, MWEs, in general, and verbal multi-word expressions in specific. The latter are highly idiosyncratic constructions that constitute a pain in the neck of NLP. In this regard, the capacity of a system to correctly identify and treat accordingly multi-word expressions of any kind has been proved to enhance the accuracy and improve the quality of other processes and tools, as for example, parsers or machine translation tools. Therefore, the need for language resources, that is, annotated corpora as well as lexica, and tools for the efficient computational treatment of multi-word expressions in running text is of paramount importance. Now, annotation of LVCs has been performed within the framework of Perceive, a highly multilingual initiative aimed at developing harmonized annotated corpora for various languages from various genera, in view of training and evaluating tools for the automatic identification and classification of verbal multi-word expressions. In this regard, a set of annotation guidelines have been developed that are as general as possible, but at the same time trying to account for features that are specific to each language. The guidelines also include a decision tree, that is a diagram aimed at helping annotators overcome difficult or ambiguous instances during annotation. Language-specific examples are also provided in guidelines in general and in the decision tree specific. So far, 4 editions of the Perceive corpora have been released, and Greek has been present in all 4 of them, with new and enhanced annotations. Within Perceive, a suite of shared tasks, that is, competitions for tools aimed at the identification and classification of verbal multi-word expressions, have been organized. And as one might expect, the datasets developed have been used as training and testing data. Tools for handling the data or for visualizing the annotations performed have also been developed. The outcome of this effort is a rich ecosystem and infrastructure that is as universal as possible, taking also idiosyncrasies of each language into account. Although the exact definition of a light verb construction varies in the literature, we use the following operation number 1 in our work. An LVC is taken to be a verb complement pair in which the verb serves as the syntactic head. It contributes no lexical meaning and therefore it is light. apart from person, number, tense, and morphological aspects. On the contrary, the semantic content of the construction is obtained from the predicative noun, headed either directly from the verb or headed by a preposition. In this respect, the predicative noun is the semantic head of the phrase. In certain cases, the semantic head is an adjective. In our approach, spectral variants applied or support verbs are not taken into account and are not annotated. Support allied verb constructions have received a lot of attention within the linguistic and computational linguistic communities. Previous studies have set the criteria for the identification of applied verb constructions and have revealed their properties, lexical, morphological, syntactic, and semantic ones, also from a cross-language perspective. Therefore, LVCs are a well-studied area in Greek linguistics too, and our work builds on the findings of these studies. Now, the corpus comprises textual data collected manually from the electronic version of major Greek newspapers, as for example, Καθημερινή, Protothema, Τα Νέα, Athens Voice, etc., news portals, selected articles from Wikipedia. To also account for a more informal register, texts were also collected from news blogs, as well as lifestyle and gossip newswire texts. The main design criteria were that texts should be written in the original rather than translated, and should be free from copyright issues, so as to be distributed under an open license. The so-collected textual data were pre-processed at the Lima, part of speech and dependency annotation level. All these annotations were performed automatically using UDPipe and the latest models of the Greek language. Due to time and scope constraints, no manual annotation of the pre-processing annotation has been performed. So to somehow remedy for this shortcoming, we also included a sub-part of the Greek dependency trademark that has been manually annotated and rendered compatible with the Universal Dependencies Initiative. In essence, this is our so-called gold part of the corpus, which is called in all levels. In this way, we managed to cover a variety of text genres, including newswire texts, press releases, opinion and popular science articles in various domains like medicine, physics, finance, and so on and so forth. Also, the Greek dependency tree bank includes parliament debates. Pre-processed data, whether manually annotated for verbal multi-word expressions, including LVCs, following the guidelines set. Like all other teams in Perceive, we used the dedicated web-based annotation tool Folia, customized this to provide for the categories which were specific to the modern Greek language. It should be noted that prior to annotation proper, a two-phase pilot annotation was performed by two native speakers, trained linguists with experience in annotation tasks. More specifically, during pilot annotation phase 1, we participated in the development and testing of the universal guidelines, providing for the specificities of the Greek language. Whereas during the second phase of the pilot annotation, we managed to consolidate the universal guidelines and the language-specific section was elaborated. Annotation proper followed, leading to the release of edition 1.0 of the corpus. This phase of the annotation was performed by expert annotators or native speakers of the language who worked separately. The validation of annotations was performed by measuring the inter-annotator agreement on a section of the corpus. Over the years, the corpus has been gradually enhanced and enriched, and consecutive editions were released. As we've already mentioned, annotation guidelines are common for all languages, but each language selects the categories that apply. For these categories, language-specific examples are provided, and the decision tree has also been customized. This is an instance of the annotation guidelines for the Greek language, colored in pink. Apart from LVCs, the Greek section of the Parsil corpus bears also annotations for verbal idioms, marked as VADs, as well as verb, particle, and multi-verb constructions marked as VBC and MPC respectively. For example, the expression vάζω λάδι στη φωτιά, put oil to the fire, meaning to make things worse, has been annotated as a verbal idiom. Whereas the expression βάζω μέσα, put in, meaning to cause someone to go bankrupt, has been annotated as a verb particle construction. Note here that verb particle constructions usually also bear a literal meaning. Finally, the expression απορώ και εξίσταμαι, wonder and get surprised, meaning to question myself, has been annotated as multi-verb construction. In the remainder, we will focus on the annotation of light verb constructions. Depending on the verb head, two types of LVCs have been annotated in the corpus, namely LVC full and LVC cos. LVC full are considered those expressions in which the verb head is light, in that it contributes to the meaning of the whole only the morphological features of person, number, tense, and aspect. For example, in the expression κάνω επίσκεψη, make visit, meaning to visit, the predicative noun επίσκεψη, visit, is the one that contributes to the meaning of the whole, whereas the verb κάνω, make, is only light. On the contrary, the expression προκαλώ καταστροφή, cause destruction, to destroy, is being annotated as an LVC cause, because in this case the verb προκαλώ, cause, is causative, since it indicates that its subject is the cause or source of the event expressed by the predicative noun, in this case the noun καταστροφή, destruction. In this sense, LVC cause constructions are expected to be less idiomatic than other verbal multi-word expressions, as well as LVCs, and can be understood as complex predicates with a causal support verb. Generally speaking, light verb constructions are highly idiosyncratic ones, since the predicative nouns select their syntactic head rather than the other way around. So, for example, in Greek, the predicative noun απόφαση, decision, selects the light verb παίρνω, take, and not, for example, κάνω, make. So the expression is παίρνω απόφαση, take, decision, instead of cano apophacy, do decision. However, a degree of lexical variation is attested in the corpus, as alternative light verbs also occur, often signaling a shift in register. So, in this respect, the predicative noun apophacy, decision, selects both the light verb perno, take, and lambano, take. So both expressions, perno apophacy and lambano apophacy, take decision, are synonymous, meaning to make a decision, to decide. Similarly, the predicate kritiki, criticism, selects both the light verb kano, make, and asko, exert. The two expressions, as kano kritiki, make criticism, and asko kritiki, exert criticism, are synonymous, meaning to criticize. Lexical variation is also attested in the predicative noun. It is often the case that a predicative noun and its counterpart, that is a loan word, a neologism, are used as alternatives. So in the example, the light verb cano, make, is combined with the predicative noun ekphovismo, meaning bullying, but also the loan word bullying, either transliterated or non-transliterated, as you can see in the following examples. So all three expressions, cano ekphovismo, make bullying, to bully, cano bullying, make bullying, are considered alternatives. The former is considered more or less the norm, whereas the latter is marked as informal. Notice that systems should be able to cope with all three alternatives of the expressions. Similar cases include the light verb constructions cano shoot, to shoot, in the jargon of sports, cano pressing, to make pressing, to press, in the jargon of sports and finance, and so on and so forth. Morphological variation is also attested, causing, however, no serious problems in annotation. More often, the predicative noun can be attested in both singular and plural number. As seen in the example, vino poscesi is also attested as vino hyposcesis. Give promise and give promises, both meaning to promise. Syntactic variation is, of course, always present in running text, so meaning-preserving variants need to be annotated. The emphasis alternation is one of the more important variations attested. What is of interest here is that in some cases, different verbs signal this alternation. So in the case of kano erevna, the passive form is formed with the verb ginome. Γίνεται έρευνα is being made investigation. It is being investigated. Other types of meaning-preserving variants include gerunds, nominal and adjectival verbs with particles, as well as nominal groups headed by nominal complements from the prototypical light verb constructions with relevant clauses. Now, during annotation, the distinction between light verb constructions and other categories was in order, most notably the distinction between light verb constructions and verbal idioms. Generally speaking, this was an easy task in most cases. So, for example, κάνω εσύ, make ridicule, to ridicule, is annotated as an LBC full, whereas κάνω roba, make robe, to ridicule, is annotated as a verbal idiomatic expression. So even though the two expressions are synonymous, one is annotated as a light verb constructions, where the second one is a verbal idiomatic expression. However, borderline or ambiguous cases were also attested. This is the case of the example provided here. In the example, the sentence "Ο Nikos χαίρει σεβασμού," the Nikos enjoys respect, Nikos is respected, has been annotated as a light verb construction, since the predicative noun σεβασμός, here in the genitive case, passes all tests. On the contrary, when the same light verb is used with the fixed nominal expression akras υγείας, extreme health, then the expression does not pass the light verb construction test and is annotated as a verbal idiomatic expression. So, other issues concern long-distance dependencies, which are very often in running text, and overlapping expressions. As you can see, in the first example, the predicative noun kritiki, criticism, precedes the head light verb, aski, exerts, and this is a long distance dependence which has to be taken into account. Similarly, overlapping expressions are quite often attested in the corpus, especially in the case where the two predicative nouns share the same verb head. In this example, έχει τη βούληση και την ικανότητα, has the volition and the ability. Two light verb constructions need to be annotated. Έχει τη βούληση, has the volition, wants, and has the ability, is able to, ικανό. So, in all annotation projects, the major issue to be taken into account is how to ensure the quality of the output. So, in order to ensure quality, training of annotators was of paramount importance. So, pilot annotations prior to annotation proper were performed, and extended discussions among members of the team took place until we were sure that our annotators really understood the task and were able to cope with ambiguous and difficult cases. We also used the output of inter-annotator agreement to spot cases in which our guidelines were not clear enough and further examples were needed. Moreover, as it has been already mentioned, continuous improvement and enhancement of the corpus was performed. So multiple iterations of annotations were performed, and continuous enhancements were performed by checking the consistency of annotation using custom-made tools. The output was a corpus that was homogeneous in all cases. So, as we have said, the Greek corpus was gradually developed, and the current status in terms of numbers is shown here. So we've annotated 5,244 light verb constructions, which are annotated as full, and 179 LBC calls. The rest are multiple expressions of other types. Now, the corpus is available via the needed infrastructure as part of the percent corpus, but it is also available as a separate resource via the growing Greek infrastructure. And the corpus is available under an open license. The latest editions, edition 1.3 and 1.2, can also be researched via the GrooveMatch infrastructure. So, to conclude, we have presented the Greek section of the Perceived corpus that bears also annotations for light verb constructions. The work was aimed at accounting for phenomena that are idiosyncratic in modern Greek, and to provide data for modeling all the configurations in which Greek light verb constructions appear. Since Greek is medium resourced language, we wanted to boost the development of relevant processing tools and to make results of tools performing similar tasks comparable. Ultimately, we wanted to provide an open resource to both the NLP and linguistic communities. As we have already said, the corpus is constantly under extension and validation, so future work has already been planned towards enhancing the corpus with new annotations within UniDive project. The next phase of Perceive, and towards further upgrading the automatically acquired syntactic annotations for part of the corpus. We also plan to update the corpus with new textual data by adding the golden subpart of the Hellenic National Corpus that is manually corrected at the Lima and Post levels. And we would like to include more genres in it. Ultimately, we plan to apply semantic annotations not only on light verb constructions, but to other types of verbal multi-word expressions. So this work couldn't have been completed without the help of our team of annotators and without the assistance and visions of the core Perceive group, notably Agatha Savary and Carlos Ramish. Thank you for your attention. I will be glad to answer any questions.